Always the same story, guys and girls, and ladies and gentlemen. How many more murders are going to happen in the UK? I don't know about Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Beyond a shocking Ketevaline Mackin, whatever her name is, Kez, and calls for HARS. It's on CB News. I can't really spell the name very well. I do apologise. It's just some of these words can be complicated for me, even though I'm autistic and ADHD myself. Some families and friends are going to be waking up to not see their loved ones anymore, just because some crazy man from South Africa was in the UK in Nottingham and decided to kill 3 people and put 3 people in hospital. Is he dead? I don't know. We'd have to find a bit more out about the video, guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. It's very saddening and heartbreaking to watch this sort of thing. Lots of friends and family going to grief over this. What would this man's family think from South Africa, what the crime he's done? Will they care? Will they know what he's done? Will they be ashamed of what he's done? More than likely. You see, the thing is, it just keeps happening and recycling over and over again. Different people, different targets. People getting killed, stabbed, shot or murdered for no reason at all. Innocent people. And some people say it's sickening. It is. Once you hear and then you're gone. You never know when your last minutes are in life. You can be taken by a hint of a second or a click of the fingers. Let's see what has been said on here.
It's absolutely horrendous. We've been right across this all day long. Our home and security editor, Mark White, is there, has been there for most of the day. Let's cross to him and get an update. Mark, can you bring us up to speed, please, with the very latest?
Well, the breaking news that we brought you about 40 minutes or so ago was a confirmation from a reliable source that the prime suspect in the murder of these 3 people and the injury of 3 others is a West African migrant with a history of violence. Now, this individual is in police custody at the moment. He was arrested around about 5:30 this morning after the white van that he now, according to police, stole from one of the victims that was murdered in these attacks was used to plough down 3 other people on Milton Street, right in the centre of Nottingham. He was arrested, tasered by armed officers, and he's been brought into custody now. There has been no official confirmation from authorities about the background of this individual. It's fairly early on in the inquiry. You wouldn't necessarily expect that to be the case, but clearly now the pressure will be on, not so much for the police, but certainly the politicians, to confirm just what the status of this individual was. Was he here legitimately working in the UK? Was he an asylum seeker? Was he someone who had overstayed his visa? Lots of legitimate questions that need to be answered, because with them come the other questions that need to be answered about the history of violence that we're told is attached to this individual. Was that violence perpetrated in West Africa before he travelled to the UK? And if so, were there enough in the way of checks to determine whether this person was the kind of person who was not a threat to the public, or was these incidents of violence, were they committed while he was in the UK? These are questions we still don't know the answer to at this particular stage. We are still at an early stage in the investigation. It's not been treated as an act of terrorism. There, it appears, doesn't seem to be the kind of evidence that points authorities in the direction of any kind of political link to the events that took place. But counter-terrorism police, the regional counter-terrorism unit, is helping Nottinghamshire police out with its ongoing investigation, as you would understand, given the gravity of the acts that unfolded in the early hours of this morning.
Do it, Sandra. You've talked about going to Barcelona for years. You weren't this indecisive about that dolphin tattoo. Don't let this be another high school prom moment, Sandra. What do you think Greg's doing now? Yep, probably on holiday.
But Wendy said it's a bit hot this time of year.
Wendy believes in astrology, Sandra. Do it. Press the button. Think of the Diana. Go see for yourselves. Yes, Sandra. Search and compare flights on Kayak.
Greg?
Electrified handle.
Stupid adverts again.
Handle tire.
Yeah, Mark, I remember, I think I was pretty much live actually, when the car went into the gates of Downing Street. You remember that as well, it was very recently. It felt to me within almost kind of minutes, but very quickly indeed, that as, we found out almost instantly, it felt like, right, okay, this is not terror. I remember raising an eyebrow while I was on air because we was immediately getting the feedback that this was a white male that had driven into the gates like this. So how come in that instance it was so quick that information like this was coming out, whereas in this one, we're saying we've got credible sources, etc., but it's not yet being confirmed by the police? Why the delay?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the instance of Downing Street, had that been a very significant incident with multiple fatalities, then there would have been a lot of delving into the background of this individual beyond just the person that you see in the car, and that would take some time, and there would be all kinds of questions around, whether this was a political motivation and looking into contacts, etc. It was clearly, I think, the police were confident enough to say at an early stage that actually the issue was some kind of grievance that this man had with authority over a number of issues that he had quite publicly shared with the officers who had detained him, that told him it wasn't an act or an intended act of terrorism. With this particular man, we don't know whether he has been cooperating with authorities, but regardless of that, the fact that 3 people have been stabbed to death, 3 other people run over, 1 still critically injured, that requires a full level delve into the background
3 people
of this
stabbed to death and 3 people run over. Disgusting behaviour.
Who he is, who he's connected to, if he has any affiliations and contacts to extremist groups or political movements. All of that will take time and will need to be looked into. There's nothing, it seems, pointing in that direction at the moment, but it doesn't mean that he didn't have a motivation that was still, an absolutely terrible murderous attack. For whatever might have been the particular motivation or reason will only come out in the fullness of time, if and when this individual is formally charged following the events of this morning.
Gracious me, shocking stuff, Mark. Thank you for keeping us up to date, and I'm very confident that as soon as we get an update, Mark will be back with us to bring us up to speed. Kelvin Mackenzie, Matthew Stadland, keep me company till 7. I'll start with you, Kelvin. One of my viewers, Natasha, she has written in saying, former student, used to go out and about, nights out. She's saying that she never would have even have considered anything like that, as most of us would not. You just go out and about, you go home. You do not expect to be in harm's way in this way. It's sickening. Is this a sign, as some people in my inbox are suggesting, that basically Britain is broken, lawless Britain?
Well, I think there are 2 aspects to this. This is a shockingly disturbing case, and the fact that he has turned out to be a West African migrant with mental health issues.
Well, we need the police to confirm that, of course.
No, but well, hold on. Your own guy has confirmed it. So I mean, he got it from a police briefing. Don't worry about that. So let's take that as the first bit. So that is an absolute disgrace, and there will be families who wake up tomorrow morning, right? They haven't got their student kids anymore. They've gone in this terrible attack, and the older guy who was driving the van, he's dead. I mean, it's beyond shocking. This, and there will be a lot of your viewers who will be taking the view that if we hadn't had this migrant, then these people would be alive today. But let's take the wider issue of yours, which I think is the one which says the number of murders in our country. I mean, let's just take the area which I know best, which is London, right? Young Londoners being stabbed to death by other young Londoners carrying huge knives around with them, right? this is a massive change in society in the last 10 years, and what seems to be the case, despite extra heavier sentences for these people, it doesn't seem to be dissuading them. We seem to have I talk about London, it's the only bit I really know, a lawless London, which I do not believe is...
There's a lot of gun crime and stabbings in London and gangs, same with Nottingham as well.
And say to them, oh, they can't be named for X and Y reasons. I want to know
any other part of the UK, in Northern Scotland, Wales has the same problem.
And I want them banged up,
Fortunately.
even when they're young. I want them put away for the safety of the rest of us. And to others to say, you are going off to jail for a huge amount of time, and we are doing it not because we're listening to some prison reform group.
Yeah, Matthew, thoughts?
I think the first thing to say is just to try to gauge the absolute tragedy of this, Michelle. I think it's unspeakable what's happened, and I can't imagine...
They say it's unspeakable and a tragedy, but the thing is, it'll happen again and again and again and again.
These students are going through, or indeed the older...
When there's going to be people say, stop, enough is enough.
Murdered. So just there are very few words that can do anything like justice to the horror of it. And I feel for not just the family and friends, but also for the people of Nottingham. I don't know the city very well, but I was there last year for an incredible test match, and you want to be reading about Nottingham for the right reasons, not for these horrific reasons. So that's the first thing to say. Thoughts and condolences go out to everyone involved. The second thing to say is that contempt of court kicks in at arrest. A lot of journalists don't know this. They think it kicks in at when someone is charged. It kicks in at arrest. So the last thing I'm going to do is speculate or comment or give any sort of opinion on this arrest. The third thing I'd say about lawlessness